16 of the fantasy football season, and here's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. This season, he hasn't been putting up those monster elite numbers like he's had in season past, but Travis Kelce, we know, is a good tight end. Last week, he definitely did get banged up a little bit versus the New England Patriots and had one of the worst games of the season for him. But this week versus a Vegas Raider team that he's had a good track record versus in his NFL career. And this Chief team back at home in Arrowhead this week, I think Travis Kelce goes out there and has a good performance. Number 2, TJ Hawkinson of the Minnesota Vikings. So Hawkinson, when it's all said and done this season going into next year, might be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. And this week here, great matchup for TJ Hawkinson versus former team, the Detroit Lions. Anytime a player versus his former team, you know the juices are flowing and he wants to go out there and have a big ball game. So this week, I think Hawkinson versus former team that traded him last season goes out there and has a big game. And Nick Mullins at least is a quarterback that's been getting the football down the field, unlike Joshua Dobbs has in the last few weeks when he was starting. So Mullins, at least a better option for this passing game, I believe, this week. 3, Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. So Sam Laporta, actually, obviously the fill-in for TJ Hawkinson. They drafted him in the offseason, and he's been a great tight end. And last week, a monster ball game for Sam Laporta. So him and Jared Goff have a great rapport. This is a great offense over there for Detroit with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs, a great nucleus. And this week here versus Minnesota, I think he could go out there, Sam Laporta, and have a big ball game right now. So right now, well, he's playing great football, and he's easily a top 3, top 4 tight end all season is Laporta. Once again this week in a good matchup in Minnesota. He goes out there and gets the job done. Number 4, Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. So weekly, it seems like McBride's putting up at least 12 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues. Last week, he went over 100 yards versus San Francisco. I know some of that game was garbage time towards late in third quarter, fourth quarter in that one. But Trey McBride, he's a great route runner. He's one of the better tight ends to come out of college football over the last few seasons, winning awards and a lot of accolades. And this week here, a good matchup at Chicago, a defense that really has had trouble all season stopping tight ends. So Trey McBride this week, I think he has a monster game once again, and him and Kyler Murray have a great rapport, and especially if Hollywood Brown's out, that's even more targets going McBride's way. Number 5, David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns. And Njoku, the last few weeks, he's definitely jumped up the ranking list, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. And Joe Flacco definitely has a comfortability here with David Njoku. They've only played 3 games together, but Flacco, he's totally turned this offense around where Amari Cooper's having consistent games. David Njoku, he's gone out there, like I said, and he's found the end zone a few times. And he's a big-time type of tight end where you could line him pretty much anywhere on the field. In the seam, obviously on the outside, and this week in a pretty good matchup at Houston where they've had trouble versus a tight end a majority of the season. I think Njoku goes out there and has a good game once again. Number 6, George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle, it's been a solid season for him. I know he got off to a slow start the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year, but for the most part, he's been a consistent tight end. Brock Purdy in this offense is taking it to a next level after the bye week now for this Niner team where they've won 6 games in a row. So Kittle, big-time threat in the middle of the field, big-time playmaker, and a big target in the red zone. So George Kittle, I know it's a tougher matchup versus Baltimore. We're one of the better defenses in the red zone in terms of just stopping teams this season. But I think Kittle goes out there and has a good game. Number 7, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Evan Ingram, he's been a solid tight end once again this year. Him and Trevor Lawrence have a great rapport, even though we don't know 100% if Lawrence is going to play in this game with a concussion. But I believe Lawrence is going to play. He's a tough guy. And we even saw it a few weeks ago where he hurt that ankle bad, the possible out for the year injury it looked like it could have been. He didn't miss any time, and he went out there and played. But anyway, Evan Ingram, he's a matchup problem for most teams. This week, a good matchup at Tampa Bay. And Jacksonville's got to get back on the winning track after dropping now 2 games in a row. So this week, I think Evan Ingram goes out there, and he's a big vocal point in this offense, especially now with Zay Jones banged up and already Christian Kirk, who's been out multiple weeks. Number 8, Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dallas Goedert, they got to get him the football a little bit more over there in Philadelphia. And this team, it just seems like a lot of running to Jalen Hurts it's been over the last few weeks. When you got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Goddard, you got to pass the football a little bit more. So I think we're going to see adjustments from this offense over there in Philadelphia. They're not finishing off drives, and Jalen Hurts has been a turnover machine over the last month of the season. But right now, with a good matchup versus the New York Giants, I think Dallas Goedert, a team he's had great history versus, could go out there and take advantage of their mediocre linebacking crew. Number 9, Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys. So Jake Ferguson's been the number 2 target all season in the passing game behind CeeDee Lamb for this Dallas Cowboy team. He's a good route runner, yards after catch, one of the better tight ends in the league. We've seen him hurdle many defenders this year as well, and he's just a tough-nosed football player, Jake Ferguson. So after last week, Dallas got blown out versus Buffalo. I think this offense is going to come out and at least improve. I'm not saying they're going to go into Miami and win the game, but I think Jake Ferguson's going to have a good ball game. Miami's linebacking crew isn't all that great as well, with Vinkinko banged up as well. And I think Ferguson gets back on track in this one. Number 10, Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. So Kincaid last week, he did have a goose egg versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I know this Bill team, they're the type of team they're trying to implement now into the offense with new offensive coordinator there, make it easier for Josh Allen. So over the last few weeks, they've run the football a whole lot. Is this Buffalo Bill team where Dalton Kincaid's numbers have gone down, Stephon Diggs' numbers have gone down, and James Cook's been more of a weapon catching the football out of the backfield as well. But this week here, I think this Bill team versus a weak Charger defense is going to spread the football out. They're going to make big plays, and I think they're going to put a lot of points on the scoreboard once again on Saturday night. So right now, I think Kincaid, he's a matchup problem for most linebackers and safeties, and he was the 26th overall pick for a reason in the last season draft. So this week, I think Kincaid bounces back at the Chargers. Number 11, Isaiah Likely of the Baltimore Ravens. Isaiah Likely, he's been a perfect fill-in for Mark Andrews over the last few weeks with 18 or more fantasy points 2 weeks in a row. So he found the end zone the last 2 weeks. Here's Isaiah Likely. He's a big-time tight end, and this Raven team drafted him in the 4th round for a reason a few years ago, even though they knew they had Mark Andrews. He's one of the better tight ends in the league. But now since Andrews been out with the leg injury, Likely's gone out there making plays. Lamar Jackson has confidence in him. He's a yard after catch tight end and a big physical guy that can run and really make plays anywhere on the field. So this week in a matchup at San Francisco, which I know is tough on paper, obviously, one of the better defenses in the league, I still think Likely could go out there and have a good game. Number 12, Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears. So Cole Kmet, it's been a solid season for him, and Justin Fields have had a great rapport all season. He's a big red zone target, no doubt about it, is Cole Kmet. He's got similar traits to with Travis Kelce, where he could catch the ball in the seam, he could catch the ball in traffic, and he's got not great speed, but he just finds ways to get open. And this week here in a good matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals, I think Cole Kmet could go out there and have a good ball game. Number 13, Darren Waller of the New York Giants. Darren Waller, he returned last week for this New York Giant team, and he had a decent game, 4 catches, 40 yards in that one. So Darren Waller, the problem with him over the last few seasons has been health. This week, it's a ball games on Monday for these teams, and it's a decent matchup for Philadelphia, where all season they've had trouble in the passing game guarding guys. Even though I know they got Shaq Leonard a few weeks ago, I still think Waller is going to be a top target here for Tommy DeVito. Like I said, last week he worked his way back, and he was pretty decent. And this week in Philadelphia, I think he has an all-right ball game. Is Darren Waller. 14, Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints. So Taysom Hill, we know he's been a solid gadget guy over the last few seasons for this New Orleans Saints team. But the only problem, like last week, there's games where Taysom Hill's not going to see the field really, and he didn't see the field at all pretty much in that one. But this week here, Thursday Night Football, where it's going to be a scheming type of game where we know Sean McVay runs a lot of offensive schemes, and I think this same team is going to do it back, and they're going to use Taysom Hill in many packages, obviously in the running game, obviously at the goal line, and he could throw the football and even catch it a little bit if you need him to. So this week here, what potential Hill has, he's a guy I can't really keep off the top 15, and I got him at 14 in the 15th and final tight end I'm ranking. It's Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. So Hunter Henry, the last couple weeks, he's really emerged again for this Patriot team with 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Him and Bailey Zapp have a good rapport. Hunter Henry, he's always had a good track record at Denver as well, going back to his Los Angeles Charger days. And I know he got banged up with the knee injury, but like I said, if he plays in this game, he's a tight end that could pay dividends for fantasy owners, and he's still available widely in tons of fantasy leagues. So like I said, Hunter Henry pretty much the number 1 target, him and Devontae Parker in this offense, because Juju Smith-Schuster really hasn't done much. Demario Douglas, he's been in and out of the lineup. He's a rookie anyway. And Zapp and Henry have a good rapport, where this Denver defense has had some problems versus a tight end this season. So that's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking for Week 16 of the fantasy football season.